I remember so many moments like this.
He looks into Hector Sanchez. On the ground to Panik. Panik to Posey. And Lincecum has done it again. He has no-hit the San Diego Padres for the second time in 2 years.
This is a collection of untold stories, episode 1. Whenever I watch that video, I still get goosebumps. Story I'm about to tell is something that I've felt I've needed to share for a long time. So before we begin, the name of the series and the name of the episode is The Reaper. I go by the Tim Reaper on Instagram and all outlets. I inherited this nickname from the collecting community. Really what it meant was me and the Grim Reaper have some similarities. We both are known for one thing, me collecting Lincecum, the Reaper being the end of the road, and really the nickname comes from those two meeting. Basically, if the Reaper joins an auction or, even a private sale and a bidding, it's the end of the road. Listen, this hobby and this player have really done more for me in my life than I can really explain. And really, I know that a lot of other people's lives reflect that sentiment as well. The collection of stories that I'm about to tell are jaw-dropping. I'm going to share things that nobody knows about myself, about the industry, about really an all-out war that happened with Tim Lincecum baseball cards that many participated in and many enjoyed. And it's really the reason why his cards are so expensive these days and so desirable, is because you will notice throughout this story the lengths of which people have gone to get them. I've never seen anything like it. It's been an honor to be a part of it and come out with really his 5 best baseball cards. I'm going to share everything I know that got me to this point, where I was able at really age 25 to accomplish all of my dreams in this hobby. And I did it not really being spoon-fed all of it. There really wasn't a silver spoon in my pocket where it gave me an upper advantage to get all these cards. It was done through absolute relentless searching, calculating, planning, and understanding everything that's out there. And really, when I look back at everything I've done to get where I am, it astonishes me to understand how lucky I was, how fortunate I was to have certain things pan out the way they did. But also, it makes me proud of the work I did. And really, when I had the idea to make The Reaper, I wanted to give people a blueprint, because the hobby right now is filled with a lot of newness, a lot of new entries coming in, and with that comes mistakes. So in this series, I'm going to cover a lot of stories that should give you perspective into the experience. A lot of stories that will show you mistakes that I made that I would like to have back. The turning point in my collecting journey came in 2013, where I would meet one of my biggest inspirations in the hobby and at the same time my biggest rival. I met Jackson on Twitter in 2013. He went by the Freaky Franchise 55 on IG, Jackson assembled what is one of the greatest collections of all time. And really, when I look at all of the people I've met in this hobby who really resemble myself the most and carry the workload that is most identical to what I've done, it's Jackson. His passion for Tim Lincecum equals mine. He is very competitive like myself. He's very smart. He's very calculated. He is very knowledgeable on all things Tim Lincecum and his cards. And both of us having all of these traits made for probably one of the best battles that's ever gone down in the industry. We started collecting card after card and really helping each other out. It was really a brothers type situation where we would look out for each other. And as one could assume, there would eventually be conflicts of interest where we were really going against each other for big pieces. And really, his love for high end and his strategy towards acquiring high end, it's something that was contagious. Basically, at one point, him and I had so many one-of-one Tim Lincecum cards. If you searched Tim Lincecum one-of-one on eBay, nothing came up. Let's be more specific here, and let's run that back. One of the most adored players in Giants history, a veteran pitcher who had cards across multiple products, across multiple companies, across 10 different years that he played baseball, had 0 one-of-one baseball cards on eBay. Mind you, this was 2020. This was 4 years after his career. You couldn't get anything of Tim Lincecum that was one-of-one. And that was because we had them all. We did. We had a checklist of them all. We knew exactly where all of them were. And the ones that we don't have, we also knew where they were. Even if they were out of the country, we had a heartbeat on anything that had his picture on it that was one-of-one. I think one of the more stunning facts that I can give you from this series that we'll get into the cards themselves. I had at one point 54 of Lincecum's top 88 cards. 54 of his top 88 one-of-one cards. And mind you, you may be asking, well, how many one-of-one cards does he have? Well, that number, even counting all of like the watered down one-of-ones, like the printing plates and like the Topps Moments and Milestones, where he has 150 different one-of-ones that are all the same card, basically. He has around 700 one-of-one cards. And so you take the 88 at the top percentile of those cards. I had 54 of them. That stat still doesn't surprise me, and we'll get into that, because it's not that like I have some magical power, but the magical power, if I did have one, would be the patience that I have and the absolute relentless eBay searches, forum searches, talking to different collectors, reaching out to different places that might have Lincecum cards. This all made me what I became. There's a lot of numbers inside that number 54 as well, because at one point I had 12 of his 14 different Logo Man cards. All one-of-one except for one set was numbered to 3. I had, I think, 13 of his 21 different Superfractor cards. The more gleaming stat was I had 3 of only 4 different Lincecum Logo Man auto cards. One of the biggest war stories that I can share is the 2009 Topps Unique Lincecum Logo Man autograph. 2009 Topps Unique was really, for baseball, the only year of Topps Unique. And for most collectors that were collecting back then, this is a very sentimental product, and it was a very good product. You had button cards, button autos, laundry tag autos, logo man autos, multiple of all-star players. Like I believe Albert Pujols had 5 different just logo man cards in the entire product. And it was a loaded slate, a loaded checklist for this product. And the cards were just breathtaking. And really, to start, I have to name one of my favorite people in the world. Listen, this was going to come in this series no matter what. And I'm so glad that in the first episode I get to talk about it. My friend Quinn. Quinn is an entrepreneur that I met in high school. And he shaped, mainly as a mentor, a lot of my business ideals that I have, my morals as a person, how I handle conflict, how I handle problems, and none of my success in collecting Lincecum would have came without him. And really, the shaping that he did on my mind and how I, handle adversity and how I plan for things, it changed everything for me. Quinn is a big Cubs fan. He is on Instagram. He is Cup of Coffee Baseball. He collects Wilson Contreras, Chicago Cubs, and other key players that he enjoys. Basically, how it all started with Quinn was I was mowing lawns to try to bolster my card addiction in high school. And Quinn basically gave me a loan, essentially, if you want to call it that. He gave me a loan of time. So basically, Lincecum's 2009 Topps Unique button autograph was on eBay. Quinn was selling a few Lincecum cards that he had. He was a big Lincecum collector for a long time. And basically, I messaged Quinn and I said, hey, I see you have 225 on the Lincecum Unique button auto. I said, I am good with that price, but I need to mow like 3 more lawns to be able to afford this card. And I was like, could you hold it for me for like a week and a half? And Quinn, without hesitation, was like, yeah, I'll hold it. So he took it off eBay. And once, I had made the cash, I hit him up, through messages, and I was like, yep, I'll grab it now. Really, the rest is history. We always shot the breeze on Lincecum and baseball, and really over the years, we just got so much closer. And really, I was just so lucky to be, I was transitioning into college from the high school level, and it was so nice to have someone that helped bridge that gap. Where, a lot of questions that I had that maybe my parents couldn't answer, he was able to answer them for me. And, problems that I would face and such, he was, and still is to this day, really my biggest confidant aside from my fiance. So really, it's just such a treat that I meet people in this hobby that change my life. And that's really exactly what Quinn did. And so Quinn gave me my first Topps Unique Lincecum card. And really, after that, there was one card left to get. Back to me and Jackson. Me and Jackson, really, my card has always been the 2007 Bowman Superfractor Auto of Tim Lincecum. It's his best card. Jackson's card that he has always wanted is the 2009 Topps Unique Logo Man Auto of Lincecum. And don't get it twisted, I've always wanted both. And I've always had the plan to have both. And so me and Jackson in our war basically made a huge precedence for this 2009 Logo Man Auto. And what it came down to was the first time it surfaced, where there was an eBay listing that popped up. Again, I was slinging subs at the sandwich shop I worked at in high school, Something that me and Jackson did that really shows you how relentless we were is him and I would check eBay newly listed for Tim Lincecum cards probably 100 times a day, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. We were always monitoring the inflow of cards and making sure that when something popped up, we would get it. Because aside from both of us having so much one-of-one cards already, again, we knew what was out there, and we knew that anything could pop up at any second. And so in this case, him and I both missed a card that was the 2009 Topps Unique Logo Man Auto card. And what happened was it got listed on eBay, and neither of us found it in time. I believe it sold for like $1,600 or something like that. Buy it now. It was a collector I knew. I didn't know he had it. It was a collector I had met on Blowout forums. And so he kept kind of secretive that he had this card, and it really surprised both of us that he did. But anyway, just kind of out of the blue, he sold it on eBay. Neither of us caught it. We caught it later on when it was sold because both of us at the same time, we both checked sold listings on eBay to see if we missed anything. Yes, it goes that deep. So me and Jackson kind of got together and talked about it. We were like, hey, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. Did you see that? Oh yeah, I saw that. Like we were nerding out about it big time, and both of us were basically just scratching our heads like, dude, we missed this big time. Like, how did we miss this? And so later on, you kind of move on in this hobby. Maybe you'll have another shot at the card again sometime. Really, once I transitioned into college, the hunt for this card was still on. We were able to find a website online in Korea of a collector that owned the card. So whoever bought the card initially on eBay was likely from Korea. And we saw it floating around there on this website. And at one point, I even hired a translator to go decode this website to see if there's any information, about who has it, who we can contact to maybe make an offer. And no go. There was really no identifying information or really like a email like, hey, contact me at this, or there was no contact information. So it was a dead end. But it was nice to see the card. There was a lot of high-res pictures of the card there, and it was nice to see it for a while. But again, me and Jackson were at a dead end. And again, we converged and said, hey, did you see that? And he says, yeah. And so, we looked into this for a while. Him and I made numerous forum posts about it, Facebook posts about it, and we were really never able to reach anyone that knew anything about it, which is not surprising. It was likely out of the country. Then comes 2018, and this is one of the crazier moments in really my entire journey collecting Lincecum. Lo and behold, it comes full circle, where I was laying in bed studying. I had a big exam that week. I believe I was somewhat sick as well, so it was kind of a tough time for me studying and managing my illness. But I get a text on my phone, and it's, lo and behold, Quinn. And it's a link to eBay. And so I click on it. It is the 2009 Topps Unique Logo Man Auto for 99 cents starting bid auction. I believe the auction was going to run 9 to 11 days, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I nearly dropped the phone. I could not believe my eyes. My first thought was, how do I get this card? And my second thought was, I can't get this card. I was not making nearly enough money in college to fund something like that. Jackson really was. Jackson was working, and I wasn't working as much. He had a full-time job. I had a part-time job. And so there was already conflict, in me believing I could get this card. But I'm someone who is more of a glass half full person. And if there's still seconds on a clock, I'm going to try to throw the ball. I'm going to try to win the game. And so really what it came down to was a lot of experience. So what ended up happening was I made a play where I messaged the seller. This was a textbook play where you message the seller when he's got a card on auction, because nobody wants it to go on auction. Regardless if Jackson wanted it or not, if I knew like he wanted it or not, there's so much other competitors out there that could raise the price of it or even beat you. So basically, you message the seller and you gauge whether they'll take it off auction or not if you offer them a high enough price. Being completely honest, if this card had gone to auction, I think Jackson, I don't know if it would have gotten to this number, but I think Jackson would have paid $12K for this card. I don't have confirmation on that, but really from conversations I had with him prior, I knew what his all-in was on this card, and it was a very big number. My all-in on this card was $420. That's not going to win. Especially even if other people get in the bidding. Even if Jackson wasn't in the bidding, that number's not going to win. You haven't been told no until you've been told no. So I message the seller. I say, hey, I'm a big Lincecum collector. I attach a big picture of my collection of all that I have. And I say, hey, I've been looking for this card for a really long time. I kind of want to just get the purchase over with, which that's not a lie. I kind of do, really do. And I say, would you take $420 for it to end the auction right now? And I'll pay today. I send this, I just did not have high hopes for this. And I get a response back and he says, yeah, I'll go ahead and take it off eBay. You just go ahead and make the purchase. I'll have it out tomorrow. This is a genuine reaction. I could not believe it. And the competitor in me was not through though. The meter in my head that detects danger, it still was at an uncomfortable amount. And probably something you're most worried about in this story is, did I successfully buy it? Because it's already a very good deal for this card, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on it when it gets reposted. So the answer to that is yes, but we're still not out of the woods, because people could have messaged him offers that were better than mine. And I knew this, and so I still didn't have my hopes up. There's also an offer, Jackson sees it. He could have offered something better, far better than what I was offering. And so I was nervous. And again, him and I, we check eBay sold listings and new listings all the time for Lincecum cards. So really, I was waiting for a tracking number because I thought that this isn't over till it's over. And it's in the U.S. Postal Service, which, again, it has to get here, thinking farther ahead. But once it managed to get scanned into tracking, I lost my mind. I was laughing. I was almost in the verge of tears. I could not believe I lucked out this much. And I think that really, in my passion and the amount of time I've put into this, and the countless energy that it's cost me, sometimes I think fate kind of works in a way. And next kind of came something that was very difficult for me. I really like Jackson, and he is someone that I share this passion with. And if there's anyone else that, like I said, equals what I've put into this, what I've gotten out of it, and how much I've enjoyed it, it's him. And so what was really difficult and bittersweet was knowing that he's probably going to find out about it. I am such a nice guy that I didn't want him to find out. I didn't rub it in his face. I didn't want to make him feel bad about it or envious about it. I kept it to myself. Even when it was scanned and shipped, I didn't tell anybody about it. It was really only me and Quinn that knew about it. It was kind of an unsustainable plan, but I wanted to just keep the card a secret as long as I could. I didn't need to post it anywhere. I didn't need to boast about it. I didn't need to get any sort of recognition for it. It was about the card. It wasn't about like me. It was about getting the card into my collection where I thought it belonged. So basically, it shipped from Canada, which again, you kind of look back. It's kind of weird that it was on a Korean website, then it went to Canada, now it's in the US again. But whatever, right? It's going to take 9 days to get here from Canada. That's a long wait. And really, no one knew about it for 9 days. But as ironic as it would end up being, someone found out about it on the 9th day. And I was at work. And I think this was my senior year in college. And I remember getting a text from Jackson when I was on the clock. And it was a screenshot of the sold listings. He had finally gotten to it. And, he was panicking, basically. He was like, dude, how could I miss this? How did we miss this? How do we get it back? I'm messaging the seller right now to see who got it. And I had prepared for this. I had messaged the seller and said, hey, I know there's a lot of people that might ask about this card or whatnot. I'd kind of like to keep my my identity a secret. So he had really kept his word on that, and Jackson had asked him who got it, and he didn't say. And really, when Jackson was texting me about it, I was trying to garner whether I want to tell him or not. And because I valued his friendship with me more than this card, even though I got it and didn't tell him about it, you may have some reservations about that. I valued our friendship a lot, and I really didn't want to jeopardize it in any way. So he was so persistent that day and kept, saying so much stuff about the card and trying to track it down. I started to feel more bad about him being on a wild goose chase that wasn't really gonna yield him any results. So eventually I decided to, play some fun with it. And I decided to tell him, and I sent him the GIF of the Key and Peele skit where Jordan Peele is sweating profusely, just beads down his face. And he was like, what? What's going on? What do you mean by that? And I told him, I was like, I know who got the card. He goes, who? And I go, well, I'll send you a picture of it today when it gets in the mail. And, I think he called me immediately, and it was, to his credit, it worked out so nicely because he was so nice about it. He called me immediately congratulating me, and I really think that he was just happy that one of us got it. I think he was happy that he was bummed out he didn't, right? But he was happy that, someone that likes Lincecum as much as him managed to get the job done. And so really after that, we always talked a deal on it, and he always wanted to get it from me. And he made some brilliant moves to really try to force my hand at one point. We'll get in, later on in the series, but I still have the card. If it ever sells, I already told Jackson it's his. I'm not going to sell it to anybody else but him. Really with a card that special, it is Lincecum's first Logo Man auto card. With a card that special, it's got to go to a special place. And so if that didn't go to someone who likes it as much as I do, it would be a shame. So, whatever it takes, if he ever, makes me an offer that I can't refuse on the card, I can, make a decision on it. But, for now, I like holding on to it still. I still enjoy the story, and I still think it's one of the best cards of Lincecum that exists. And, I'm not in any sort of rush to get rid of it. A good resolution aside, that entire story and me getting the unique card It really fueled Jackson and my rivalry. We, for many years following this, him missing out on that card didn't deter him at all, and that's because he has true passion. And also on my end, it didn't finish anything for me because I have true passion. I didn't stop. He didn't stop. We both kept putting everything we had into getting so many crazy cards that it's astonishing. Following the story of the 2009 unique Logo Man auto, we have the next Logo Man auto that would eventually surface. A little history: Tim Lincecum didn't have an autograph card between 2009 to 2015. For whatever reason, his deal with Topps, I don't really know what happened, but he wasn't signing cards for them or anyone. I think there was a couple really random products he signed cards in, but there was a couple products where he had cut autographs in. As crazy as that sounds, they cut autographs out of his Just Minors cards, which were sticker autos, and so it was bizarre that these cards existed. But regardless, in 2015, Topps Dynasty came out, and really all the Lincecum heads were trying to get the Logo Man auto. That would be his second of all time. He didn't have one since 2009, and that was his only. So we were really all monitoring eBay for this card, and another collecting friend of mine was able to grab it before either of us. His name is Mitchell, really cool guy, big name in the hobby for lots of reasons. I mean, he's collected Red Sox, he collected Lincecum, he's a really good autograph seeker. He's gotten me numerous autographs that I've wanted, and he just doesn't really even charge me that much. He's a good human being. And really, he was able to get this 2015 Dynasty Logo Man auto by using a technique that Jackson kind of showed us. This is something we inherited from Jackson, where it's similar to, I compare it to the MLB trade deadline, where if you have a card that you really want, and maybe you can't really fund it, or you don't want to have an extra expenditure of that size, you already have a lot. Jackson, what he would do is he would liquidate items that weren't as good as the one he wants, and he would use those to get what he wants. And it's similar to the MLB trade deadline, where you would trade prospects for a big time player that your team needs. This quickly became evident, and a lot of fellow collectors kind of caught on to this, and we use it as well. And so what Mitchell did to get this card, I remember it. It's just a small detail to the story. I know he had a big hockey card he had hit in a break, and he ended up selling the hockey card, and it was the perfect amount for him to go after this Logo Man auto. I believe the Logo Man autos sold for $2,500 on eBay, something to that extent. Mitchell just hit the buy it now, and he was able to secure it. So now you have me with one of the Logo Man autos, and Mitchell with the other Logo Man auto, two for two. Another Logo Man auto wouldn't be created till 2020, and 2020 would have two Logo Man autograph cards. One of those has some significance recently, but both of them would surface in 2020. Now, the first of which was the 2020 Topps 5-star Logo Man auto. 5 stars, a great product. This card was magnificently gorgeous. I missed out again on this card. Everyone missed out again on this card. Another new collector into the entry. His name's Andy, collects Giants, fellow fan. He was able to get this card on eBay. Listen, I guess aging really got my searching skills, or maybe I got complacent, because Andy was able to spot this card before me or anyone else. and it sold on eBay for $1,600. Now, again, these prices are very low, which is very ironic for every single case of a Logoman auto so far. So, Andy grabs the card, and everybody under the sun's trying to get it from him. No go, not going to sell it. A lot of time would elapse, and I would still be trying to, contact Andy and make a deal with him, see what I could do. Eventually, Andy was taking serious offers on the card. So I employed what I had seen, people do before me, and I went ahead and started selling pieces that I, could put behind this card. Which ones could I get rid of and not, feel the pain of it, which they're all painful, but which ones could I get rid of to bolster this purchase? And so late 2020, these negotiations started to materialize. And someone who caught wind of that was Jackson. And obviously Jackson, one of his big goals now is to be an owner of a Lincecum Logoman auto. And so me and Jackson, we both picked up the swords and went after it one more time. And Jackson had amazing offers for Andy, so did I. And we were battling pretty close to a point where it became a stalemate for this card. And eventually, I kind of had the idea where I knew that a lot was going on with this 5-star Logoman. And I was like, well, let's hit up Mitchell. Because I talk to Mitchell now and then. I had bought cards from him recently. And so I was like, let's see what he's up to. And see if the 2015 Topps Dynasty Logoman auto is for sale. And so, I had contacted him multiple times about this, more than I'm really an embarrassing amount of times. I don't think I understood social cues with it. I was very annoying, and I apologize to him for that. That's kind of how collectors are. But I texted Mitchell, and I just kind of threw it in his ballpark. I said, hey, would you do $6,000 for the Lincecum Dynasty Logoman auto? And, I didn't really expect him to respond at all. I didn't. He is very fond of that card, and I didn't see it happening. And, he didn't get back to me that night. I think I texted him at like 6 o'clock. It wasn't until the next day that I heard from him. And, I had, wedged out that $6,000 from some sales. I was like, let's go ahead and make sure, I have 2 chances. I'm throwing my tickets into 2 hats, for the raffle. And really, the next morning, I was taking just a massive amount of packages that I had sold to the post office. And, at a stoplight, I was safe driving. I was completely stopped. I see a text from Mitchell pop up. And, I had been waiting for this. I'm not going to say I was sitting on the phone, but like, I was very much looking to see when, when he would text me back. And so, I even, honestly, it sounds psychotic, but I changed his text tone so I would know if it was him. I was on the edge of my seat waiting for this text. So at this stoplight, I get the message from Mitchell. I hear the text tone. I know it's him. And I completely stopped. I look over at my phone and it says 6,100 and I'll ship it today. And man, I fist pumped so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I'm guaranteed one of these crazy cards and I get to take it home with me. I sold all these cards for good reason. If I would have sold all these cards and not gotten anything, that's the risk I take. But all of my efforts and all of these cards that were sacrificed, they're going to a good reason. It actually worked. And so I was very excited. I got him paid out and the card arrived safely. It was a great time. Now, this is really what made me successful in all of this was I didn't stop there. And I kept working. And I didn't count myself out of the other Logoman that was still available. I messaged Andy, and he already knew. The rounds had already went around. You know, the Lincecum collecting community is kind of cliquey in a way. And everyone knew that I had already just landed this big card. And so they kind of counted me out of this other one. But I quickly put water on that fire. When I texted Andy and I go, hey, I'm still in on the 2025 star. What are we thinking? Where are we at on this? And so I was able to sell some more cards and now you got to look at my line of thinking. I now have 2 of the 3 available Lincecum Logo Man autos. To have 3 of 3 would be legitimately wild. And really, any other cards that I was on the fence about selling or even trading at this point, those are now on the table because now I have an opportunity to do something pretty much historic in getting all 3 Logo Man autos. And so after a while, I had my buddy over, and he was sitting next to me, and he knew he's a fellow collector. He collects Royals cards, and he knew what was going on and how much precedence this had. And, I was kind of locked in on my phone. He was, I think he was playing my PS5 or something. We were just sitting there, and I get Andy to agree to a deal. I just basically set down my phone really, really gently for how exciting of a moment it was. And I just casually, almost a mic drop kind of moment, I just casually look at James and I go, dude, I just made history. And he goes, you got it? And I go, I just did it. And really, it was such an adrenaline rush. And I'll never forget it to this day. It's so much more meaningful too that, the cards that I had worked so hard to get, they fueled this success. They fueled, the new acquisitions that really cemented the history of my collection, the historical perspective of it. I really hope you enjoyed these stories today. There's a number more coming. Next week, I'm going to share the best story of the entire series. It is how I acquired the 2007 Bowman Chrome Superfractor Auto and how it potentially cost me millions of dollars. We're going to get to that next week. I am just foaming at the mouth to get that story out there, and because it's going to be so entertaining for you guys, and it's going to give you something to hopefully inspire you to go after your dream cards and plan for your dream cards. I just can't wait, and I hope you can't wait either.